Families were supposed to have at least 5 children. Young girls and women were praised for motherhood and domesticity, although they were still expected to be submissive to men. The family unit and the continued importance of children factored into how women were treated, especially since Mussolini wanted to grow the Italian population. The larger a family, the better it was for the fascist state. Families with more children were given tax breaks, while single men were taxed heavily. Women who bore a large number of children were publicly rewarded. After-school youth programs were propaganda seminars for children. Mussolini knew children were vital to the success of his regime, and went to great lengths to bring them into the ideological bubble early on. Italian students, particularly young boys, were taught in stages about what it took to be a proper Italian citizen. From ages 4 to 8, boys wore black shirts and were told to listen to individuals in charge and to call Mussolini Il Duce. This was foundational training for when they became balala at 8 years old, and were given play guns and taught to march. When they turned 14, boys became avant-gardista, decked out with black shirts, hats, pants, and gray socks. These groups supplied discipline and arguably brainwashing for Italy's young men. Phones were tapped, so people had to screen their conversations. Telephones weren't widely available in Italy, and the telephone system itself was fairly antiquated for the day, but this only made it easier for the lines to be tapped by the secret police, headed by Arturo Bacchini. With mainly the elites using phones, the fascist state could get information about their business dealings, as well as any political conversations they might be having. The WWI also kept dossiers on people throughout Italy, acquiring information any way they could. The trains really did run on time, sort of. As the famous justification for fascism goes, fascism in Italy was repressive, but it made the trains run on time. One of the rationalizations for fascism was that Mussolini brought organization and discipline to Italy, as demonstrated by getting the trains to run on time. This is partly true, partly false. The rail system in Italy was vastly improved under Mussolini, but it had been devastated by WWI. Overall, the larger, more commercial express trains on the Italian rail system did a better job of keeping to timetables during Mussolini's decades of power, but local and daily trains were plagued by delays. That said, even tourists who rode the express trains complained. As the Belgian foreign minister noted, "We always were kept waiting for more than a quarter of an hour at the level crossings because the trains were never there at the times they should have been passing." Still, though, no one dared to report it when the trains were late. When Mussolini made an appearance, fear and admiration were indistinguishable. Mussolini was a charismatic leader, and when he made public appearances, people were awed and afraid. One individual recalled that the crowds in the street were cowed and silent as he stood up in his open car in the procession. They acted afraid of him, quite different from their subsequent admiration. This indicated a fine line between the two different emotions. Communists, dissidents, and working-class leadership were simply eliminated. When Mussolini finally marched on Rome in 1922, he did so with an army of black shirts at his side. Black shirts were a paramilitary force who, as their name implies, wore black shirts. He used them to evoke terror domestically and abroad. From the earliest days of the Fascist Party in Italy, Mussolini's black shirts worked to get rid of any opposition. The black shirts' motto was me frigo, or I don't care, and they really didn't. They first targeted the Socialist Party in Italy, and within 2 months in 1921 had demolished multiple outposts for labor leaders and socialists. Once the fascists went from being an urban phenomenon to a wider Italian force, they then went after peasant leaders in the countryside, showing aggression towards any potential challengers in villages, communities, and towns throughout the peninsula. They would humiliate enemies, communists, socialists, anarchists, by making them drink castor oil and other things to humiliate them. After 1927, Mussolini also used WWI, the Organization for Vigilance and Repression of Anti-Fascism, or Organizzazione per la Vigilanza e la Repressione dell'Antifascismo, his secret police. Mussolini reinstated the ultimate penalty in Italy and started rounding up his enemies. Many anti-fascists simply left Italy, setting up shop in Paris or other European cities to escape persecution.
Getting detained was common.
Before the Fuhrer's first visit to Italy, there was widespread concern about hiding anyone who could be perceived as the opposition. For example, a Jewish refugee in a small village on Lake Como described his unusual detention. The police said, "We are very sorry. We have to come to arrest you and put you in prison for a few days." And he said, "Oh yes, I understand." They said, "You know, the beds in our jail are very, very poor. We suggest perhaps with our help, we could move your bed from your hotel over for you. And the meals aren't good either. You'd better perhaps have them send you some meals while you are there, and wine, too. Then that would be better." He said, "Oh yes, I'll do that. I'll arrange it. I'm sure the hotel will arrange it for me." And that is what happened. He said, "My jailers came in and drank some of the wine every day, and we played trick-track and various things together, and had quite an amiable time. After Hitler went home, those arrested were released."
The Palazzo Braschi was adorned with Mussolini's face and reminders to vote yes.
In 1934, the Fascist Party headquarters building, the Palazzo Braschi in Rome, was decorated to tell the Italian people how to vote. On the side of the building, Mussolini's giant face was surrounded by posters exclaiming "Sì" meaning yes, the only vote acceptable with Mussolini's candidates for upcoming elections. This wasn't the first time Mussolini used large gestures to remind voters to vote his way. He similarly decorated the Palazzo Braschi with a picture of himself in 1929, although it wasn't as large or imposing. The decoration of the Palazzo Braschi was part of Mussolini's larger plan to adorn buildings, all overgrown with fascist propaganda, and to generally remake the city as he wished. To boost his prestige, Mussolini had architects design and build sports complexes, public markets, schools, and other buildings, as well as roads, all in the spirit of Roman emperors and Roman Catholic Church leaders.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the support and likes and comments down below, and also thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to see you in the next video. Then take care. Bye.